You're probably watching this because you're an alienated parent, or have an interest in learning more about parental alienation. This is a quick overview of what parental alienation is, the consequences to parents and children, degrees of alienation and some common behaviors, and how to identify parental alienation in the behavior of children. We'll also talk about how to reduce the conflict that can trigger or worsen parental alienation, and a few ways of coping as an alienated parent. So what is parental alienation? Parental alienation is when one parent, the alienating parent, deliberately or unknowingly acts to turn the child against the other parent, the alienated or target parent, and disturbs this parent-child relationship. It is generally in response to separation or divorce, when a child aligns themselves with one parent, usually the custodial or resident parent, the parent living with the child, and becomes preoccupied with the unjust and exaggerated denigration of the other parent, usually the non-custodial or non-resident parent. The behavior can be perpetrated by either parent, regardless of gender, male or female, but statistically, most alienated parents are non-custodial fathers. The child starts to harbor irrational feelings and beliefs shared by the alienating parent, and cannot see any good in the alienated or target parent. Furthermore, parents may put children in the middle of conflicts. Parental alienation arises because of unresolved feelings such as anger or bitterness in the alienating parent, or to gain an advantage in legal custody of the child. The child often unknowingly becomes an advocate for the alienating parent. There is often confusion between parental alienation and parental alienation syndrome. Parental alienation looks at the parent's behaviors, whereas parental alienation syndrome focuses on the child's behavior. Therefore, parents engaging in alienating behavior may not lead to parental alienation syndrome. However, Dr. Douglas Darnell, author of Divorce Casualties, states that once parental alienation syndrome takes hold, it is difficult to reverse in the child. It is undisputed that children generally do better when connected with both parents. In fact, parental alienation is now recognized by psychologists as a form of emotional and child abuse, resulting in long-term harm. Alienating parents will create fear in the child of the other parent. According to social psychologists Jennifer Harman and Zenny Berringen, a professor in the Department of Human Development and Family Studies from Colorado State University, when parental alienation happens, the alienated or target parent suffers the trauma like an abused adult would, and the child like an abused child. Professional treatment should be obtained for the abusive parent to end the alienation, and the child needs to be put in a safe environment with the healthier parent. Research shows that children who have been alienated from a parent have a high probability of suffering from health issues, problems at school, social adjustment challenges, engaging in risky sexual activity or illegal activities such as drug use or criminal activities later in life. Alienation can lead to negative impacts on the alienated parent such as stress and health issues, higher substance, drug and alcohol abuse, and depression and suicide. Dr. Douglas Darnell identifies three distinct types of alienators: naive, active, and obsessed. Naive alienators are parents who are passive about the children's relationship with that other parent and may do or say something to reinforce alienation unknowingly. Active alienators are usually alienating due to unresolved feelings of hurt and anger and are very vulnerable to being triggered by the other parent. They lose control over their behaviors and what they say to the children. Obsessed alienators are on a crusade to destroy the targeted parent and the relationship between the child and the targeted parent. The obsessed alienator does not have enough self-control or insight to recognize how their behavior is hurting the children. He or she feels justified to protect the children from the caught and targeted parent, and is always looking for support and affirmation to justify their cause. Naive alienators and active alienators can curb their behavior with education such as co-parenting classes. However, obsessed alienators usually would require professional intervention and treatment. This is because the research suggests that severe parental alienation is usually the result of an underlying personality disorder, such as narcissistic or borderline disorder. Some behaviors of parental alienation include rigidly enforcing the visitation schedule for no valid reason, rescuing the child from the other parent when there is no danger, asking the children to spy or gather information against the other parent, blaming the other parent for problems in the children's presence, allowing children to choose whether or not to visit a parent, changing the name of the child, or bribing the children with toys or gifts to gain more love and using this affection to turn them against the other parent. At the extreme case, parental alienation can involve the alienating parent making a false allegation of assault, sexual abuse, drug and alcohol use, or other illegal activities by the other parent as a way to sever the child-parent relationship. In instances of an alleged sexual or physical abuse, social welfare departments, the courts, and the police have a duty to conduct a thorough investigation for the safety of the children. The accused parent is usually physically separated from the child for the duration of the investigation. Unfortunately, false allegations are happening more and more because the alienating parent takes advantage of the judicial system's reluctance to punish them out of respect for the child's welfare. False allegations simply complicate the parental alienation matter and creates a situation that further traumatizes the children and placing tremendous emotional stress for the falsely accused parent. Dr. Gardner, a leading expert in parental alienation, identified 8 distinct components to identify parental alienation in the child. The first component, called denigration, happens when the child aligned with the alienating parent actively complains about the targeted parent. The child may ask the custodial parent or a psychologist to tell the alienated parent they don't want to see them or tell them what the alienated parent did wrong. This can be very upsetting for the target parent as there is usually no justification for the child's decisions or remarks. Secondly, the rationalizations or reasons for complaining about the target parent are often weak, frivolous, or absurd. For example, the child complains they don't like the target parent because the parent plays with his or her phone, didn't give them what they want to eat, makes them take the garbage out, or takes them to the playground they don't want to go to. The reasons provided by the child is silly, and they are usually unable to provide good reasons for their stance when asked. The level of apparent hostility is not compatible with the accusations being made. Thirdly, the animosity from the child towards the alienated parent lacks the ambivalence that is seen in normal human relationships. In this situation, the child will not recognize any positive relationships between the alienated parent or any negative aspects of the loved parent. This total black and white rejection of the other parent is not normal in the absence of proven abuse or neglect of the child by the target parent. Regrettably, the children's good memories with the alienated parent are completely destroyed unless positive memories are exaggerated or distorted to be much worse than the reality. Fourthly, the child may assert decisions to reject the parent based on their opinions, or goes out of his or her way to say that the thoughts are not influenced by the alienating parent. The alienating custodial parent may state in court that they want the child to visit the other parent, but the child does not want to. This is a clear sign of parental alienation, and judges usually do not accept this argument because parents cannot simply allow children to skip school simply because the children do not want to attend school. Children often do not want to visit the targeted parent in order to avoid going against the wishes of the alienating parent. The reason is because children understand very quickly who has power over their lives and can inflict emotional pain and suffering, and often side with the misbehaving parent, which is usually the custodial parent. The fifth component is when a child automatically and reflexively supports the alienating parent they have sided with, regardless of any given argument or disagreement. When children are asked why they agree with the alienated parent and reject the target parent, many times the children will say they don't know. In the sixth component, the child expresses guiltless and crude disregard for feelings of the alienated parent and may suggest the parent does not deserve to see them. One parent is often seen as perfect and can do no wrong, whereas the other parent can do no right. There is no gratitude or support for the positive contributions or affections of the alienated parent. This can also be a trap for alienated or target parent because if they react negatively to the child, in this instance, it can further damage the child-parent relationship. Sometimes the children's responses have a rehearsed or coached quality, often with the story, expressions, or words used by the alienating parent. Psychologists identify this by checking if the child has the cognitive ability based on their age to understand what they are saying. For example, a 9-year-old child making statements that a 20-year-old would say far ahead of their conceptual and cognitive development. When questioned further to check the child's understanding, most children under these circumstances will admit they don't understand what they are saying, but are just imitating or copying the attitudes and beliefs of the alienating parent. The last component of the parental alienation can be observed when a child's animosity spreads to include the target parent's extended family and friends. So the relationship of the child to the other relatives, for example, aunts, uncles, grandparents, cousins, are damaged as well. The child will suddenly hate them and not want to see them because of their connection to the alienated or target parent, even though these relatives have done nothing wrong. Parental alienation can be classified into different levels. Mild if 1 to 3 components are present, moderate if 3 to 5 components are present, and if 5 to 8 components are present, then it indicates extreme parental alienation. The family court system has traditionally treated alienation as a custody issue instead of a child protection issue. Courts around the world are beginning to recognize the harmful effects of parental alienation and treat it as child abuse. For example, social welfare officers in the UK, Canada, and Australia are being trained to look out for components of parental alienation. Increasing efforts to raise awareness of this serious problem by family advocate groups and associations, NGOs, and other professionals will hopefully continue to drive legislative change. In more and more jurisdictions, alienating parents are having their custody rights revoked in favor of the alienated or target parent. Solicitors for obsessed alienators can be placed in a difficult ethical position and inadvertently contribute to the alienation if they do not recognize the client's rage and manipulation. If solicitors believe the children's interests are being threatened and not represented, solicitors should consider asking the court to assign the child a guardian ad litem. This helps the solicitor out of an ethical dilemma and offers the child some protection. Often, visitation arrangements under divorces can be fragile. Parents can adhere to some rules to avoid participating in or triggering alienation behavior. First of all, never use children to make access arrangements, and never suggest visitation arrangements not previously discussed. Don't say bad things about the other parent, their friends or relatives. Don't talk about divorce disputes around your child. Don't make your child feel bad for loving the other parent. Make an effort for both parents to attend important events of your child. Do not hide the dates and information from the other parent. Do not screen phone calls or limit telephone access between the other parent and the child. Do not send messages or money with the children. And do not ask information about the other parent's household, friends, income, or relatives from the child. Do not assume everything you hear from the child about the other parent is accurate. Do not second guess the other parent in regards to the rewards or disciplinary action. And do not referee or mediate between the child and the other parent. And finally, send and return children clean, well rested and fed. As a child is moving between two parents, saying goodbye to the child may be an emotional experience, so it's important to have a goodbye ritual between the parent and the child. The pain of being physically or emotionally distanced from your child can strike at the heart of any loving parent. As an alienated parent, you may find it difficult to sleep and eat properly. You may cry uncontrollably and become depressed. Sadly, suicide rates among alienated parents cut off from contact with their children are at epidemic proportions. The family justice system does not always recognize alienation, and alienated parents may feel drained and give up the fight for contact with their children. You may feel that you are alone, but there are many alienated parents facing similar situations, supporting each other, passionately campaigning and advocating for social change to stop this type of abuse. Finding support from relatives, friends, and other community groups can give you the resilience to persevere in the process of reuniting with your child. Remember to continue living your life so you can be a role model for your children. In the words of psychologist, Holocaust survivor, and author of Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, Forces beyond your control can take away everything you possess except one thing: your freedom to choose how you will respond to the situation. If there is meaning in life at all, then there must be meaning in suffering. If you're an alienated parent, my heart goes out to you, and I wish you all the best.